I'm Richard Lewis, reporting for Kaelaris.org, and I'm here with one of the upcoming StarCraft 2 casting sensations, Kaelaris. Right, first question. This is probably the biggest event you've done. I know it's the second big event because you did the Asus before this, I believe.
A little bit.
So, what do you make of it, man? You having a good time?
It's a crazy experience. It's certainly probably the crazy experience of my life, other than kind of moving to Finland randomly when my girlfriend was like, hey, you should probably come and move here. But it's been bewildering. That's the only way I can describe it. I've described it many a time like that. You know, kind of meeting everyone completely from the very word go, and like even like people from Blizzard like coming up and introducing themselves to me is a huge honor. I mean, I've played Blizzard games for like ever since Warcraft 2, so for me it's amazing.
What about in terms of the actual competition itself? I mean, obviously in your capacity as a caster, you're going to be following it. Have you thought that the games here have been of a high standard, as high as something like an MLG or you know, a GSL, dare I say it?
Yeah, the games have been really, really good. I mean, there's not really been too many disappointing games. There's been one or two moments where, say for example, lack of knowledge of which version of the map we've been using has been kind of anticlimactic, but other than that, it's been great. Again, you know, day one with the full PvP group pretty much, other than Nurtio, was just a blast. And for me, I mean, I play random, but I'm a really big fan of PvP, because a lot of people think PvP's kind of rubbish, but I don't think that at all. I think PvP's awesome. I think there's a lot of evolution going on there, to a certain degree, of course. And there's not too much evolution because it's a mirror matchup, but it's awesome. I mean, the like 200 engagements that we're having in PvP now are so cool to watch in comparison to what we had PvP a few months ago. So,
well, in terms of what you're doing here, I mean, this is obviously a great opportunity for you, and one that's probably, I know, maybe come a little bit out of the blue. I've got to ask you the question, because, right, being a StarCraft 2 caster is a big fucking deal, it seems, and have you found it to be a bit of a closed gate? I mean, like, has it been hard kind of breaking into it, and do you think it's going to be really hard to say rub shoulders with some of the bigger names in it?
Rubbing shoulders with the bigger names is far off into the distance. Obviously, these people are well established. They're, you know, people that are very, very well respected within the community. The Day9, the Artosises, the Tastelesses, all these guys. Those are the three that I really hold in high regard. Artosis especially, because he is just the phenomenal god that he is. But getting into casting for me, it was all a lot of work, tons and tons of work, and you can't necessarily do it unless you've got a lot of time on your hands and, you know, the financial support to be there. And my girlfriend was the main factor in that. She said to me early on or whatever, okay, I'm willing to support you as long as you're going to give it your all. And I mean, when I go into anything anyway, I'm not going to kind of just sit back. There's no point in being lazy and staying back. You've got to give it your all, otherwise you're never going to get anywhere. So it was all a big case of networking, emailing so many people early on, trying to say, hey, look, I really want to cast more and more and more and more. And it gets to the point where I'm like casting 5 times a week or whatever. One time a few weeks ago, I sort of ended up triple booking myself for the same evening, and I was like, oh my god, I really need a calendar. I just kind of memorized it all up until that point. But it's all about networking, and there's a lot of luck involved as well. Well,
you've kind of preempted the next question, because I know there's a lot of people who are probably thinking, I'd like to go at that, you know, I'd like to get into StarCraft 2 casting, because from the outside I imagine it looks very glamorous. What tips would you be giving to aspiring casters based on your own kind of life path so far, with the exception of having a great supportive girlfriend?
Wow. That's a good question. That is a good question. There's a lot of factors you have to consider. There's a lot of personality traits, fundamentally, that are just kind of, I mean, I don't consider myself a funny guy. I think I have a small bit of charisma or whatever. Whenever I like solo cast a lot, so I like to just kind of let my hair down and be myself or whatever when I'm on my channel, with obviously the professionalism, because that's super important. Professionalism, so important.
Well, it's funny you mention that as well. I get accused of being unprofessional all the time for having opinions. I think people have like a very different idea of what professionalism is in esports, and I've got a question for you afterwards. But
opinions are good. Like, I mean, if people overreact, and as long as you're not stating your opinion as fact, as long as you're saying, you know, this is my opinion, there's nothing wrong with opinions. I have my own opinions on loads of stuff, but I'm not going to kind of like execute myself right now or whatever, and
we'll get
just
to
in
that
case
later.
someone like kills me. But you know, so, yeah.
But what else? What about in terms of like how do you practice? Because we talk a lot in our interviews about training regimes for players. All the good casters I know actually have their own thing that they do, and I know you're bunking with Red Eye, so you've probably seen some of his stuff he does in preparation, so perhaps you can enlighten us to that as well.
Red Eye's a machine. I aspire to be as machine-like as Red Eye. If you don't know who Red Eye is, he's the Counter-Strike caster, for people watching. Because I didn't know too much about him before I actually came here, because I've never really been into Counter-Strike. But for me, regime-wise, I'm a Masters random player, which is a really big thing. Being a caster and playing as random, kind of high level. It's not really a high level, but just having the fundamental understanding of the races in itself is such a huge boon. And then obviously, when it comes to, say for example, when I got told that I was doing Asus ROG, I mean, I only got 3 series to cast there, but there was supposed to be a few more. I actually laid myself out a schedule. It was about 3 weeks in advance. So say, for example, I mean, not only do I play and watch a lot of streams, but I set myself a good schedule for, I would focus, say, for example, one day, TVZ early game from the Terran's point of view. And then the next day, I took exactly the same 20 or 30 replays from as a high level as I could possibly find on the internet, and analyzed all the games in the early stages from the Zerg point of view. So I went through every single matchup doing this, with the exception of PvP, because I'm quite good at that kind of stuff, and it's kind of obvious. But and ZVZ, because it's ZVZ. But and other than that, I just beforehand, lots and lots of practice casting, lots of solo casting, because if you actually practice as a solo caster, not only as an analytical caster, but also kind of as a play-by-play, because you have to mix it up, you don't want it to be too dry. Once it comes to co-casting, it's like the easiest thing in the world. so good.
Well, difficult question for you now. Sorry to do it to you on camera. You may have no opinion about it. It's something I've written about in the past. Because StarCraft 2 is seen as the lucrative esports title at the moment, the one with the most money in there, there has been some people who have been famous for casting other titles that have made the jump across, and maybe it's a little bit cynical that they're kind of all of a sudden, yay, we love StarCraft 2, and they're waving their flags. What do you think about that, and what would you say separates you from perhaps somebody who's doing that? Sorry.
No, it's fine. I like these cool questions. It's fine. I think that people, if they've got a fan base and they kind of jump on to this kind of thing, then that's more than welcome to it. I mean, there's no reason to not have more casters, because if you've got more casters, and if that caster, for example, has got such a fan base, they're going to be bringing more people into the community, into StarCraft, which is awesome in my mind. I think, the more people you can have, like say for example, I don't know, there's casters out there that appeal more to the casual market or whatever. That's amazing. That's great, because bringing more people in, and eventually a lot of those people, or some of those people, are going to say, well, I've come into this game. I see what's going on. I've seen the casual level. What's higher? What is in terms of analysis and things like that? And those are the people you bring in, you capture forever in terms of just their hearts, and it's awesome. I like it.
And how do you differ?
How do I differ? Oh my god.
The second part of the question.
I don't differ in any way. I don't know. I guess I've loved RTS for ages, ever since June and Command and Conquerors and things like that. So I don't know, in my solo casts I like to do a bit of everything. I like to kind of be entertaining, and I mean, I'm not that entertaining, but there you go, whatever. And then when it comes to this, because I do a lot of solo casting, and I can try and mix up the styles, I try and fit myself around my co-caster. Like say for example, if I'm casting with Apollo, we have, some cool analytical rants or whatever, but when it comes to like an engagement per se, I know that Apollo isn't necessarily the kind of guy that's going to get hyped and shouting about the engagement. So I try and kind of fit that role. And say, for example, if I'm with someone who's not as analytically minded, you know, they want to be the exciting person, I'll take on the analytical role and try and kind of fill that niche as well. So I like to kind of, if I had to say how do I differ, I would say versatility.
Okay, so final question. This one's a bit easier because you're the guy with the knowledge. Predictions. You'll have no doubt seen the bracket and the Korean heavy bracket. No surprises there, I guess. Who do you think's going to go all the way? Who do you think you'll be seeing in the finals?
MMA is like...
It's a pretty easy answer, I know.
There's a lot, yeah. I mean, MC, are they on the other side? I can't remember if they're on other sides of the bracket to each other, but if they are, it's an MC, MMA final, and then...
Do you think MC will overcome Violet, who's been doing quite well? He won IEM Sao Paulo.
Just beat him 3-0.
Oh, right, we just missed that.
It's fine, don't worry. But yeah, he just stomped him.
Stomped him as well?
Well, the MC, he has the best PVZ in the world, because of his pristine timings. There's not a thing he's overlooking. And it's not just the timings that he hits in the mid-game, it's the ability to kind of put on that little bit of pressure to begin with, off, say, for example, a 4-gate pressure that does the damage that not necessarily Zergs are kind of defending against the timing of. It's something that's not exactly done as much as it should be, so MC is able to really kind of exploit Zergs really nicely recently. So I mean, he's really strong. He has better timings in PVZ than any other Protoss right now.
But you, like everyone else, very much in the MMA camp for this title.
Yes, he's a force to be reckoned with. Nobody's going to argue that. Unfortunately, DRG wasn't able to come along. He wanted to represent GSTL in the tournament that was this morning, actually. Or MVP, yeah. So I think DRG would have been his only competition. I mean, MC could still do it. MC could quite easily still do it. His PVT is pretty good. It just so happens that MMA's TVP is pretty amazingly formidable. So.
Well, look, thanks a lot for taking the time to talk to us, and I know you're going to have a bright future. People love the British accent, that's what it is. I can identify with that myself.
I don't know, I'm just a scrub, man.
But to all the people out there at cadred.org, do stay tuned to the website. We're going to be bringing you more video coverage of the StarCraft 2 tournament from here at the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship.